We do know in this country that nearly 9,000 Canadians have died of COVID-19. And we've been talking this week already about one of the very unique ways that some Canadians are paying tribute to those who have died, honoring their lives. 3 dedicated knitters in the province of Ontario have started to put together a COVID-19 memorial blanket. But the job is not done yet, far from it. And they're calling on knitters across this country to help. Heather Bredner is with me this morning, the owner of Aberdeen's Wool Company in Lindsay, Ontario. Hi, Heather. I'm Heather. Welcome to our program.
Good morning, Heather. It's nice to speak to another Heather.
Absolutely. And we have to shout out to your fellow knitters, Allison Day and Amanda Sharp, the 3 who are behind that. I'm looking forward to talking about it more. We showed people, and we'll show some more pictures about what you were doing. We had a report on it earlier this week, but we wanted to spend some more time learning more about what your project is. So tell us about it.
Sure. So while we were during shutdown in Ontario, like a lot of Canadians, we were trying to figure out, okay, we're at home. What are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? Part of the brainstorming sessions that happened with Amanda, Allison, and I, who the 2 of them are absolutely amazing, we came up with this idea to make a memorial blanket. The blanket took some inspiration from the AIDS quilt. I remember as seeing that for the first time, how impactful that was for me visually. And we wanted to create a blanket to memorialize all of the people in Canada that we've lost due to COVID in a unique way that could provide comfort to the families, provide a slimmer of hope and solace, knowing that the rest of the country is grieving with them.
So Heather, let me just jump in because we were just showing some archival footage of that AIDS quilt. So that'll have people have exactly in mind what you saw that inspired you, and now we're looking at it again here. And that gave you the idea to take this forward. It may not be as big as that. That was gigantic, but we're talking, as I mentioned, with that number, nearly 9,000. This is going to be gigantic, what you're creating.
So as it stands right now, it's going to be about half the size of a football field. It's about 1,500 pounds when it's assembled, so it is going to be quite large. It's going to be a fairly dramatic, and I feel something that's going to spark a lot of emotion and, you know, hopefully some solace to the families, knowing that the rest of the country is thinking about them.
Isn't that incredible? Well, the knitters across the country are already eager to join in, apparently, since this became public earlier in this week, really across the country. Tell me about the kind of response you had, because I know you have some envelopes right there beside.
We do. To be perfectly honest with you, I've been fairly emotional the last day or so. Yesterday we found out we have just over 2,000 knitters who have already registered via our website to volunteer to knit, which my heartfelt thank you to all of them. A lot of them have jumped on board and, you know, have fired up their knitting needles and are headstrong and starting to send in, you know, went to the mailbox this morning, pulled these guys out.
Fantastic.
Lots of stuff starting to come in. We've already had lots of squares brought in.
Show some of those to me. We were looking at some pictures, but you have some right there because you mentioned the website, and we'll put that up for people. But people go there, and there are specifications for what they have to knit, correct? And so they'll all be the same. Can you hold up some there so we know what you're talking about, Heather?
Absolutely. So this is the square. This is a square that's going to represent one of the frontline workers or the essential workers who unfortunately have passed away, trying to keep all of us Canadians safe. Each one of those will have a maple leaf attached, a fallen leaf attached to it. We've reserved this color to represent them in the blanket. And then lots of other colors, beautiful. Lots of other squares. We've had quite a few start to come in. The squares will all include a name placard with the province as well attached to each square.
You know, I'm not surprised. I mean, people have been sending us pictures, Heather, during the pandemic, what they're doing, and knitting has proven to be quite a popular pandemic pastime. So I'm not surprised that there's so many who are ready to knit and ready to help and engage what you call, I love this term, craft activism. Can you just, as we say goodbye to you today, just sort of sum up what you're hoping to do for the country by way of healing, I guess, through the power of knitting?
Essentially, the knitting community is such a unique community in itself, and it's such a beautiful community. There's always a sense of people knitting for others, and that's a lot of what the knitting community does. And so in all of us joining forces in this blanket, we hope to provide that little bit of healing, that little bit of solace, and not only for the families, but as a side note to the large blanket that's going on display, we're also creating individual sized blankets so that those can be sent to long-term care facilities, as well as homeless shelters and women's shelters and other agencies that have been impacted by COVID. And I mean, knowing that some of those memories of the people that have passed away are providing comfort to somebody else in need of comfort, I think can be a pretty powerful thing. And as a country, I think the size and the gravity of the blanket represents that collective gravity and heaviness of grief that we've all felt through this.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the one message that, if I could put across, is that the families aren't alone. We grieve with you. I know we can't be together, and that we can't celebrate a life in the way that we typically would, but know that the country is behind you and thinking of you and grieving with you.
With the comfort and the embrace of this beautiful blanket. We're going to keep in touch, Heather, as you put it together, and hopefully take it on tour. Thank you so much for this morning. And again, the website, COVID-19 memorialblanket.ca. That's where you can find the details.